Hi, everybody. I hope you guys are doing great today. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to part one. I'm just calling this part one of your Western forecast for the month of April. And for those of you who are new here, my name is Jackie. I'm a Western whole house astrologer and tarot reader. I've been doing this for many, many years. And my focus is always in evolutionary astrology. Since I can't really think of a better tool if you really want to best understand yourself, it really is it's what I practice in my readings, and I think it's really effective. And it's something great to use to just really understand why you do what you do and where you've been in your life. Really great stuff. So I was going to do a complete video, just one for everything, all the different transits, all the different signs, and I'm like, there's just too much going on this month. At least the implications of what is transiting, the implications of those transits and what's going on this month. So I just felt like there was just too much to address for one single video. So I'm doing this video. If you see me looking down, I'm just checking out everybody's charts. I do have a smaller printout here, but I have some notes with charts on my screen. So just if you see my eyes going weird, but there's a lot to talk about. But I really want to just focus this part one video on two main things, and that would be the Jupiter and Neptune conjunction that we've all been waiting for. And that's initially happening on the 12th, along with that new moon partial solar eclipse in Taurus. And that's hitting at the end of the month on the 30th. And I'm also going to be connecting this energy to numerology, because honestly, that lens is so interesting. And it adds such a layer, I feel, of relevance to everything that's going on right now. So if you like this video and you would like to support my channel, please consider hitting subscribe and the like button, so that the YouTube algorithm can actually recognize me and can be kind to me by showing my video to other people who are not familiar with my channel. So I really appreciate that. Now, as far as my work goes, just a couple of housekeeping things before we get into it. I am currently offering a 15% off of all of my readings for the month of April, except for those who are Aries and or Taurus, sun, moon, and or rising. You guys are getting 25% off because you guys are the birthday babies. And I feel really bad because in March, I only ran it for Pisces. And I got a lot of messages from Aries people like, hey, we're like the last 10 days of the month. They're like, yeah, you're right, So with that being said, because we have, Aries and going into Taurus energy in that month, 25% off for all birthday babies, sun, moon, and rising. So even if you're like, I don't know, a Cap sun, but maybe you're an Aries rising, or you have a Taurus moon or something like that. Okay. Okay. So all that's out of the way. The energy of this month, guys, is said to incite a major shift for the world. And I want to explain why. There's a very, very good reason why I'm saying this. Jupiter and Neptune conjunct in Pisces, right? That's on the 12th. Now that hasn't happened since 1856. I mean, they do conjunct each other every 12 to 13 years. That's not the big deal. The big deal is they have not done this in Pisces since 1856. And even let's just think a little bit past this date on the 12th as we get towards the eclipse at the end of the month. I'm saying around, let me say, around the 22nd, 23rd, Venus is going to be in the house. Venus is in the house before that, but she's too far away in degrees, right? Because we always want to pay attention to I pay attention to within 8 degrees of that energy for her to be really impactful. And that's going to be happening towards the end of the month. That wasn't even going on in 1856. Venus wasn't even in the house. So it's that. And there are some numerology connections that I'm gonna get into that we're gonna sort of unpack together. But it's this in conjunction with the eclipse that's going on. I mean, so this is really going to be very, very interesting. Again, because I'm getting a lot of emails from people like, well, I don't understand. It's not a big deal. They are, they go conjunct every 12 or 13 years, but not in Pisces. Pisces is the oldest sign in the zodiac. Pisces is very important to understand. It's deeply spiritual and it's very, very transformative. It's also there's a lot of hidden energy that is that needs to be understood when it comes to Pisces and Neptune and that 12th house energy, which we're going to talk about. So I do want to say, if we understand that this has not happened since 1856, then it's been 166 years, which factors down to the number 4 in numerology, which tells me, and this is my perspective, okay? And I would love to have conversation with anybody in the comments about this, those of you who follow and study numerology as well, because I know a lot of you guys do. This tells me that whatever cycle we're moving into is going to be very focused on physical and material factors, especially over the course of the next year, especially as we enter eclipse season. This eclipse is going to be rolling out truly, we always say over the next 6 months, right? Even though it's a partial, it's going to be rolling out. This one's going to be different though, because of how Neptune and Jupiter are still going to be conjunct. Plus it's going to be in there with Venus. And by the end of the month, Mars is going to be in the house too. So those 4 together in a house, this is path changing stuff, right? And that doesn't mean that everybody's going to be moving. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to be getting a new job. But we're going to talk about how it can end up impacting you. And then we're going to get specific towards a little later on in the video, how it's going to impact first and foremost that paradigm shift for each sign. And I'm saying that like that on purpose, because we're all going to be feeling it in our life in general, but there are going to be particular areas that we're going to certainly be feeling it first and foremost in, and then it'll kind of trickle into the other areas. But going back to this idea of 4, right? I see this as a time when rest and stability are really, really important right now, like vital to regenerate and consolidate all that's been going on in our lives, right? So it's kind of like we've all this stuff going on, whether it's in our personal life or whether it's in the world, honestly, like I don't even want to get going. Like I have my Chiron in Pisces, like I've just been crying like nonstop for the Russians and the Ukrainians. It's just terrible. Okay. This is what Chiron and Pisces looks like. I want to go and, give everybody a hug and send them everything that they need. But anyway, what's interesting here is that we're going to be moving into a space. I'm purposely calling it this energy of reckoning. Everything is going to be brought to this kind of reckoning, and any sort of unwanted or outworn aspects will be eliminated, because the energy is just not going to be supportive of it. So I want you to think about a vegetative landscape, right? That's being pruned for the winter to make way for the coming growth for that following spring. That's where we are as we truly kick off the energy of this year 6, right? It is 6, it's 2022. So we're in a year 6 right now. And we've been talking about this change, and we've all been feeling it in layers, right? Incrementally. And even though like from Monday to Wednesday, maybe there's not a big change, maybe there is, it depends on what's going on in your life. But we will certainly do feel moving forward, right? If we're paying attention and we're engaging in life, we do feel this, but it's almost like this preparation, this setting things up, this recognizing what hasn't been working, this realization what you want to bring more of into your life, right? All of this has been kind of coming up right now. And with this year 6, so, I mean, this is going to be a year of many peaks with the focus on accumulation of power that wants to come through our investments in creativity of all kinds. So I'm telling you right now, there is going to be so much, I think, really good, different kind of music, writing, shows, films, strategies in business, new kinds of technology. I mean, all of this stuff is all creative, right? It's all creative. This is going to be such a cool time for creativity of all kinds. New and creative projects undertaken and focused on this year are especially aspected for success, especially if you're certain signs. So, certain signs are going to have an extra kiss of blessing when it comes to the energy of creativity. Certainly Capricorns, Geminis, right? So we're going to talk about that when we get into those energies. But especially, guys, especially if it has in some way something to do with helping other people, because this whole year is going to have a very humanitarian vibe to it. And when I mean humanitarian, I'm talking like 11th house, that Uranus Aquarius kind of energy, where it's not only thinking of self. So it certainly doesn't mean that we're all going to be working in soup kitchens, or we're all going to be hopping on flights to go and help people in need here and there. I mean, many of us will. Many of us will, who are able to do that. But when I'm using the word humanitarian, it's literally thinking about other people, thinking about other people in your family, thinking about other people in the workplace, thinking about what you're involved in the moment, whether it's a career or relationship. How is it impacting the other people in your life, like your children, your family, your friends? How are these things impacting, right, the people in our world? And we're going to be very, very mindful of that. So any project, any creative element that we're taking on that's going to be very mindful of other is going to be really, really good, particularly if it's uplifting in some kind or it's validating in some kind. So it's also a time to focus, and I mean really, really focus on the home and personal relationships. Many relationships are either going to feel more secure and be secured and made stronger over the next year. Even if you've been in a little bit of a weird place, you know, if you have the ability to fix something, you know what I mean? So it's going to be made stronger over the next year, or it's going to be released. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you can't fix it and you're dealing with somebody who's still sleeping and they don't get it, and you're just, this underlying integrity, this idea of underlying integrity is going to be such a thing. It's going to be such a thing this whole year. So in other words, guys, and I know this is never cozy to hear when we know we're in something that doesn't feel so good, lies and or anything insincere or toxic is totally going to be rising to the surface. And I'm just connecting this right over to the South Node being in Scorpio, where what's being released: secrets, lies, manipulation, bullshit that we just need to purge out, right? Horrible stuff like that. We need to like get rid of it because it's going to rise up. Holding on to what you know is not based in honesty, and you know it does not have good intention, is going to result in a lot of anxiety, a lot of argument, with a kind of like devolving into, I'm calling it like a kind of hatred. And I know hate's a very strong word, but it's going to be, you're going to be pushed to the point where, you know, and this could be coming from you, like you have to be really honest with yourself, and everybody in your life has to be really honest about, like, are we living in our integrity together? Because if we're not, and you guys are not willing to come into that same space, that's something that's really needs to be looked at, because your feelings are going to grow fangs and a different layer of like this very heated energy. So I'm just letting you know, right? Really kind of pay attention to where you're at with stuff. And again, when I say relationships, it doesn't have to be your marriage partner or your intimate partner. It could be that family member, that friend, you know, that coworker, right? So really, this cycle that we're moving into brings the lesson that we all need. You know, the long and the short of it is, we have to all come to terms with the facts of things in our life right now, as they are now, what they might be, what they have the possibility, what they are right now, so that we're not only exercising, we don't only have the ability to exercise personal honesty, integrity, and a positive attitude, but we're also going to be in a space where we're expecting that from other people as well. So keeping our energy clear and very clean, you know what I mean by that, and honest. Now, if we're working with a narrative that where we honestly believe that we're doing the right thing in the moment, that's different. We're not talking about that. If we know that we're in something or we're doing something, but we know damn well we're not supposed to be doing it, it's not going to end up being a good thing. But if you can be honest and keep your energy clean, this is going to be such an awesome year to manifest happiness and creative achievement, sound financial success. If you've been trying to get to that point, you know, this is very like a karmic energy, right? So if you're putting out good, you are going to get good back. If you've been putting out bad and you're not exercising integrity, you have to be careful. Okay. Now, I want to begin discussing the conjunction and the eclipse, and I want to do so with the working thesis that there will be, in my view, a kind of like sub-narrative of the number 9. Don't worry if you don't know what that means. I'm going to explain. Those of you who know numerology know what I'm talking about, right? And so I feel like it's going to be running underneath the surface between like April 12th and the 30th. The reason I'm saying that is because we have the 30th, we have the eclipse minus 12, right? Which is when the conjunction is, that equals the number 18, which factors down to a peak number 9. And I really do believe that these energies are working together, which is why I'm doing this. In other words, we are about to be introduced into a period of pronounced and profound humanitarian activity. And I was mentioning a bit before what I meant by that. But it's all of our goals are just going to be not me based right now. I mean, we're going to be thinking of ourselves, you know, to some degree, but like selfishness, no. And I mean, obviously it makes sense, right? Everything going on in the world, people need help, whether they're at a border or in another country. I mean, people are needing help right now, even in our own, even in the States, even the United States right now. A lot of people are in need. So we're going to be far less inclined to be very me focused, and it's going to be a lot more we focused, setting up our goals, considering everyone involved. Now, Mercury is going to be moving from Taurus into Gemini this month, right? That's like happening over the month. So this indicates to me that we're going to be experiencing increased mental analysis while we assess our own personal goals, while also the needs of others. You know what I mean? And this buildup will manifest as, for many of us, plans to change careers, this need to truly assess long-standing relationships of all kinds, and environmental surroundings. You know, are you going to be vibing with where you live anymore? Do you live in the city and you're like, I think I want to get out of here? Or you're living in the country and you're like, I need to be where there's more life. Or it could literally be like, I don't know if I feel very safe in the energy in the environment because of stuff in my neighborhood or my area, right? And that's going to be a thing for a lot of people because of Neptune. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. You know, like the invisible toxicities, right? But even like, it could even be like the environmental surroundings could even be like the house you're living in right now. Are you living with a narcissist? Are you living with people who disrespect you? Are you living with roommates who are just a hot mess and they're always pulling you into their drama? Because the South Node in Scorpio is like, get rid of the drama, get rid of all of that stuff. We don't have any room for it, right? So really looking at that, all right, so I'm using that as kind of a blanket term. So I just wanted to explain that a little bit. Now, many will attempt to make demands on us in our life. And this is really important to understand, especially because of Neptune. So we have to be careful here. A lot of people in our life, right? We're going to be making demands on each other, obviously, right? Which is fine because we're going to be in an energy where we're going to feel more comfortable to ask for help, which I think is beautiful. Asking for help to help level us up, not to keep us small. If you're asking for help in order to be kept small, that's going to be a problem because there are going to be some people out there who it's going to be artificially contrived just to attract sympathy, you know, for handouts and for codependent issues, right? Now, it's different if you're in the process of building yourself up and you're in the process of getting your life together and you're in the process of opening a business or launching something or trying to move something forward. This is a beautiful energy for people to help you out and you to help people out, an energy of reciprocity where the end goal is betterment of the individual. Thumbs up to that, like across the board. It's the other one that we have to watch out for because we're not all going to have the eyes to see, especially if we care about people. So we have to be careful of people trying to pull on our heartstrings with like a fake violin. But you know what? We don't want to be mean to these people. We have to treat them as people who need to be woken up. And I don't mean woke as in this nonsense that we're talking about across society right now. I mean, spiritually, they may be in a space where they're not able to see their own stuff. And we just really do need to exercise kindness because, we can't make blind people see and we can't make deaf people hear. We can't, we just don't have that power. But our discriminatory and ability to analyze things is probably going to be very tested during this time, but we're going to be made a lot stronger for it. So it's all in it'll ultimately be in our favor to exercise that integrity without feeling guilty, guys, because if somebody is trying to be very dishonest with us, it's only a matter of time before it reveals itself anyway, because the South Node's in Scorpio. I'm just going to keep saying that. Now, some of us are going to have this experience at home with family members or people that we're connected to through home, others at work. But it's this energy where, and when I say that, I mean, we're going to be motivated to help people in our family life or in our home or at work. We're going to be motivated, but we just have to have our spidey senses turned on to any potential nonsense where people might be, contriving something that's artificial just to manipulate a situation. And then others of you are going to be pushed to help on a more global scale. You're going to get on that plane to go to that place to go and help people in like a broader humanitarian effort. Now, if you're not traveling to help, you with almost without exception, you're going to be either moving home, changing jobs, or forming new circles of friends or acquaintances over this next year. Okay, so that everything I just said, that's a lens of numerology that I just approached. So you see how it kind of feeds in and supports what it is that we're going through, right? It makes sense. So let's talk about April 1st before we talk about the end of the month, which is the eclipse. So this April 12th, Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces. It's forming this conjunction with the Neptune at 23 degrees, Pisces 59. On April 12th, right? And so this is a one-off transit, guys. And for those of you who don't understand what that is, it doesn't repeat 2 more times like a lot of other outer planet transits do. That's it. This is it. We're never going to have this again in our life, right? Again, 1856 was the last time. Now, with Jupiter forming conjunction to Neptune, idealistic and humanitarian goals or impulses are going to surface. Again, this idea of thinking about other people. You have to remember, like, Neptune rules Pisces, and it's this beautiful 12th house energy that's very giving, and with expecting nothing back. That's the beautiful part of Pisces energy. I will give you, I just want you to be good. I don't want anything back other than to know that you're good. Where this energy can get a little crazy in this way is when people don't understand boundaries, and we may not understand when the hell to say no, because Neptune is very confusing. Neptune's boundaries are very foggy, right? You guys have been watching me know. I always say Neptune is like trying to look at life through a thick fog or a dirty window. So we just have to be careful, right? I mean, I just want to say that. Now, a spirit of altruism and generosity and making connections with other people from different backgrounds. That's where Jupiter pops in, because Jupiter rules the 9th house. And the 9th house has to do with foreign land, foreign travel, right? So we're going to feel this need to connect, widening our minds, right? Jupiter through unusual connections with people, learning new things. There are many ways that that can manifest, and I'm really going to kind of get down a little more specifically, but basically in a nutshell, we're going to be desiring the experience of different experiences, expanded faith, feeling that anything is possible if we believe in it, like really, you know what I mean by that? Like, being super honest, like, I know I want this for all the right reasons, and my energy is completely geared and I'm ready to do the work. That kind of thing, we're all going to be feeling that. Practical considerations could end up taking a back seat when Neptune's in the house, right? And remember, Jupiter expands whatever it's conjunct. So if I'm saying to you that Neptune can be very giving, very dreamlike, it's the stuff that dreams are made of, but it could also be, we have to understand, Neptune rules Pisces. Neptune rules several things. It also rules addiction, self-sabotaging behavior, things that we don't understand, when to say no, when to stop, because it's all about those boundary things. So we just have to be very careful in understanding that the practical bone, right, and our assessment may be a little crooked right now. So we just have to understand that. So we more easily make personal sacrifices in this energy, though, for sure, for what we believe to be for the better good, whether it's relationships at home or abroad, whatever it is. Everyday ordinary life doesn't satisfy any of us anymore, because we're all hungry for this other more idealistic life. And a lot of it could be because certainly it does seem like at least the pandemic that we understood that we were in is more evolving, let's say devolving more into an endemic at this point. But we're wanting more, right? We're wanting more. And this could certainly lead, though, to disappointment or strong feelings of discontent, restlessness for a lot of us, because it's like, I really want more. I could feel that there's more. Do you know what I mean? It's this feeling, I want to expand. I want to, and it's almost like an energy, guys, of suddenly realizing I have a bucket list, and I'm realizing I want to do A, B, and C. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that we're just experiencing such a scary point in time. And a lot of us who are old enough to remember how life was like in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and how we're wondering, will life ever really go back to that? And what does that even mean? And so it's like, this desire to want to do and help and experience before it all goes away. And I know that sounds very dire, but it's not. It's like our energy is going to be making the decision to look at everything as the glass half full. Life is big. It has so much to offer. I want to do everything. And if you're not able to do anything like those things right now, you could feel very restless. But be patient with yourself, because this is a great energy to plan and start getting everything, setting all of your ducks in a row. Because remember, this eclipse, sometimes the eclipse has immediate ramifications on our life. We see that all the time. Relationships suddenly ending, people suddenly passing away. You suddenly out of nowhere get that job. You serendipitously meet the love of your life in a supermarket. These things certainly happen. But for this particular partial eclipse, I feel like we need to really look forward to like end of May into beginning of June for the changes to roll out that we're going to be feeling now. We may need a reality check in order to keep our expectations realistic, I always say that anyway, that's always good, caution should be exercised with legal matters, again, right? Because of that Jupiter energy as a landlord of the ninth house does deal with a lot of legal matters, finances, and other like worldly or practical affairs, as the tendency here to ignore critical details or to take foolish risks runs very high because of Neptune, right? So just be a little careful with that. However, if expectations are kept in check, this could be a fabulous time for dreaming. And that sounds so like airy fairy, but seriously, like coming up with some new possibilities, new things that you want to get into, especially I think from the 21st on, because that's when Venus is going to be conjunct with both of these planets. It's also a period of greater compassion, when our guiding principle is to trust in people or the universe. But again, glass half full, trusting, I want to be good, I want to do good, all great stuff. Just spidey senses on, right? I have to give you the possibility, because I don't know you in your life. You got to be careful of anyone coming in who's going to try to, take opportunity and again, contrive something. Now, some positive let's talk about some associations with this energy. Some positive associations with this combination include all things creative. I don't care what it is. If it's poetry, if it's writing, if it's singing, if it's dancing, if it's film of any kind, if it has to do with makeup, working on your home, creating, in the area of real estate, whatever, just even if it's just taking something and adding a new creative energy. So all things creative. Okay. So let's just big one right there. Super creative energy. It also has an association with water, especially the ocean. So those of you who are thinking about doing anything by the ocean, this is a beautiful energy. And honestly, between now and June, as much as you can, even if you're scared of water, just go by the ocean or go by the lake, or there's so many healing and calming elements about water right now because of this conjunction. So good. Also oil. So like, can we get a hey ho for that? Because maybe this will take care of the flipping gas situation, because this is bananas right now, right? Oil. Maybe we'll finally figure out this gas mess and we'll figure out where we're going to actually get the oil in a way that makes sense. But honestly, with Venus in there and the big change, we're set to have a big change. And I don't think that this is the thing. The prices may go up, but then once Venus hits the house and then Mars by the end of the month, Mars is not having any of this nonsense, just not having it. Mars is also not going to have any patience for any sort of attempt at chemical warfare. And I do want to just put this out there, because I do believe there are going to be threats. There's going to be a lot of fear. Mars and Venus are not I'm telling you, they're not going to allow it to happen. And that is probably way beyond the scope of this video, but I'm feeling very positive about that. A really good energy for spirituality, negotiating, advertising, marketing, launching, travel. This is all Jupiter stuff. It's all ninth house. A second marriage. Jupiter rules the energy again of the ninth house, which has to do with second marriages. It also has to do with, I think I mentioned religion already. Positive experiences with in-laws. That's always good. Higher education, any kind of higher education, anything like that. Okay. Some possible challenging associations that, and I want to be very clear here, these things that I'm talking about as possible challenges, they're not going to be challenges to just hang there. They're going to be challenges for you to once and for all face, look at, and address, right? So issues, and this is going to sound random, but I'm going to start with this one. Any issues with the feet, because the feet are very Neptune. Neptune rules Pisces. Pisces is all about the feet. Okay. So if you've been having any issues with your feet, this is a time to actually address it, take care of it, or it's a time for healing. If you broke your foot, if you haven't any kind of issues with that. Okay. So it's kind of like on a light sort of side kind of thing, right? But on a little bit more of a serious note, guys, escapism of all kinds, especially drugs and alcohol abuse, disease of all kinds. So we're looking at, when we're talking about Neptune, because Neptune rules disease and anything that's noxious and gaseous, and also allergies, right, can be indicated here as well. So if it's not allergies, it could be any kind of disease that Jupiter, when Jupiter is conjunct this energy, it's about expanding, right? But with the eclipse, because it's in Taurus, and Taurus rules the body, and Venus and Mars are going to be in the house, you're going to be finding something out, which is great, because then you could troubleshoot, or then you could catch something, right? So if you haven't been feeling well, I can't emphasize enough, please go to the doctor and get something checked out. But those of you who maybe been drinking too much, playing around with the drugs too much, any kind of escapism at all, if you've been gaming too much, if you've been spending too much money, anything that's too much right? All of that stuff is the devil energy in tarot, right? Not that it's evil like the devil, but it indicates imbalance, right? Having a glass or two of wine, that's not a big deal, right? Spending some money, we do that, right? I mean, this is what we do, but it's the excessiveness of it all that's got to be like, because the key here is if you're using it to escape, there's a problem there, and you're gonna have a lot of very supportive energy to address anything like that. But also outside of that, anything that's very mysterious, illusory, or feels sacrificial, as an experience in any kind of relationship of all kinds, I mean, that's going to rise to the surface. You are not going to be willing to stick around for that anymore. And as I mentioned a moment ago, at worst, this energy is the threat or fear of chemical warfare, right? Because again, that is very Neptune, and when Jupiter expanding that, but I do believe, again, Venus is going to set that shit straight with Mars by the end of the month. I'm not worried, right? Because Mars is not playing right now. But if that comes up, take a deep breath. Try not to allow your energies to go too dark with this. All right. Please just have faith right now. All right. So we have all that stuff going on. Now let's talk about this new moon solar eclipse on April 30th. This eclipse is the second in the Taurus Scorpio set that began in November of 2021 with a lunar eclipse in Taurus. So it's the first solar eclipse in Taurus in this set. And remember, Taurus and Scorpio, they're the nodes of the moon right now. So that's really important in all that. I mean, that adds another layer on top of everything else as well. So this phase of the moon occurs at 10 degrees and 28 minutes of Taurus. Can we get like an amen to the number 1? Because 1 plus 0 is 1, 2 plus 8 is 10, which factors down to a 1. Guys, this is a new cycle. Again, the numerology is speaking to us loud and clear. We are going into a new cycle as we begin the new astrological new year. I think, don't we all just kind of feel things that are a little different, kind of scary, a little exciting, but just different? So the solar eclipse occurs when Venus is this is a partile conjunct Jupiter in Pisces. And since Venus is the ruler of this eclipse, it's particularly significant. So even to the houses that we have Venus ruled. So, being wherever like your Taurus and your Libra are, Venus rules those energies as well. So this eclipse aligns with Uranus, which is all about humanitarian, shaking things up. He's the revolutionary, and it harmonizes with Mars. And we could get off to a great start mentally as we take on some new beginnings right now, right? As we're really going into spring. Its effects can be felt, as I mentioned before, for, about 6 months after the actual date of the eclipse. But the thing is, in this 6-month period, for a lot of us, it's going to be path changing. So there's going to be a shift to our path. And it could just simply be like, maybe you're moving, or you're changing jobs, or you started a new relationship, or you're ending a relationship, or something is changing that, right? Something is changing. So that could be really exciting. So in the sign of Taurus, matters related to personal finances. Let's talk about Taurus for a second. Values, right? What it is that you value, the idea of ownership, your physical and material resources, how you nurture yourself, literally and metaphorically. So this even covers like the food that you put in your mouth, right? So that would be literally how you feed yourself, but also metaphorically. What do you do that helps build your self-esteem, that helps you feel really, really good? This also has to do with personal possessions. Very important is your feeling of worthiness, and how worthy do you feel? Have you not been feeling worthy? Why? Looking at that, there's going to be a strong desire for safety and security. There can be a huge resistance to change, a strong desire for comfort, a strong desire for security. These are very like bull gang energies here, right? There could even be a resistance to change for some of you, right? Because of that desire for familiarity, for stability, for comfort. And what's isn't it crazy, but it's just so interesting how even when we're in things that we know aren't good for us, at least we know what to expect, Sometimes it's the fear of the unknown, especially in Taurus energy, that can be almost paralyzing, but it's just going to, on a personal level, there's going to be a lot of strong focus on one or several of these things. Now, this eclipse is about new beginnings, regarding again, any or all of these matters, but understanding that there's some sort of long change in the work here, some long changes, as I've been mentioning. So we'll be feeling this throughout all areas of our life. But a little later on, I'm going to discuss where each rising and sun sign will be feeling it, first and foremost. Now, because it's happening in Taurus, this eclipse is about strengthening our sense of security. So, and how do we evaluate that, right? So we have to reevaluate our relationship with money and possessions and discovering what truly, truly makes us feel happy and fulfilled. What do we actually need to feel like the best versions of ourselves right now? And it's also a period for considering new ways of increasing our income or earning power right now. So new and potent energy here is with us for taking charge of our personal possessions, our personal finances, but also being able to provide for ourselves. Again, with the North Node in Taurus and the South Node in Scorpio, this between now and the middle of July of 2023 is going to be a time where we need to focus on becoming more independent. And this certainly doesn't have to only have to do with money, because Taurus is about more than that. It's about our work ethic and what matters to us and how we nurture ourselves and our self-esteem, right? And so it is this energy that we're going to be really looking at very sort of hardcore right now. And how could we bring ourselves flowers, right? And I know that's so cheesy. That's like, I think from the 70s, but how can we make ourselves feel better about ourselves? How can we make money so that we don't have to count on anybody? How could we, feed our own soul so that if someone is not showing up in the way that we would ideally like, maybe there's recognition that there's over dependence on external energy to feel good about ourselves. All of these things are going to be coming to the forefront, and they're all really, really good. All of them are good because it's pushing us into a better place. But to really work with this energy, we have to be concentrating on what it is that we can do to increase, in reality, our feelings of self-worth, and to get in touch with what we really value in our lives. And sometimes we get so busy, we forget to actually pay attention to that. And we're going to have to focus on how we can part with those things or situations that are just no longer contributing to our feelings of worthiness, whether it's that job, that friendship, that relationship, whatever it is. And we have to, and this also includes identifying anything that maybe gives us a false sense of security, right? So, oh yeah, I'm working, but you're miserable in work, or you're in that relationship, but you're unhappy. That's a false sense of security, right? You're not really feeling secure within your own skin within that dynamic, but you are willing to tolerate it for the time. Now, I'm really not speaking to those of you who are like, I know I have to leave that job. I know I have to leave that relationship, but I can't right now because of my kids, because of money, because of whatever. But I'm definitely in the planning phase, figuring things out, how to make the transition where there's a healthy recognition, but you also don't want to bite your nose off to spite your face. So this energy this month is so good for planting seeds, which is what we do, right? In that harvest energy, so that they could blossom later on, right? So even if it's just intention and research and whatever you have to do that. So I just want to give a couple of examples here. So like on a mundane level, some of you may be realizing you have to change homes, right? So maybe you live in a really big home and now you're going to be downsized. You go downsize and you're like, wow, I have to get rid of stuff. And then it's going to be really, you're going to be pushed to identify what really matters to you, because you can't bring everything. What really matters to you. So what's staying and what's going. Others of you may have to pay out a large sum of money that requires an adjustment of spending habits. And that could be because maybe you're buying a new home, or you're buying a business, or something's going on in the life of one of your children, or do you know what I mean? Or maybe you got a big tax bill, that could happen, because that's opposite the Taurus energy. That's more of an eighth house Scorpionic kind of thing, but it could be that. While others of you may be forced into becoming completely independent after maybe going through a divorce. because divorce can impact your money as well as your self-esteem, right? The both of those things. So if this feels challenging right now, things will feel more clear as the summer approaches. I promise you that, going back to what I said about the number 4, right? Things are going to go in a better direction. So we might evaluate where we have been really making things harder on ourselves than they need to be. Where have we been complicating our lives by our love, hate, attraction to predicament and conflict, or by an addiction to food or alcohol or drugs or comfort items, and consider what truly makes us feel content and comfortable, that's healthy, right? We really need to identify that. Knowing what that is truly and deeply makes us feel comfortable, more in control of our own energy, and will absolutely translate into improved relationships with other people, and even improve relationships with our money and ourselves and our self-esteem. Our sensual side is going to be very enhanced right now. Remember, because Taurus is ruled by Venus. So anything that appeals to the 5 senses, nobody loves a good meal and a good cocktail better than Taurus. I mean, Taurus just loves that, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Again, you want to just do that in moderation, or experiencing anything, either anything Venusian, anything appealing to the senses, or anything having to do with earth, right? Because Taurus is that earthy energy. It's the body, it's feeling, it's that essence. So all of that's going to be very heightened. So we're going to want to be involved in situations where we could feel that connectedness, either to earth or to our sensuality, right? All of those things are going to be very, very heightened right now. Now, during this season, this series of eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio, it's from November of 21 to October of 2023. We're learning about the balance of give and take here. That's really what we're looking at. That is the thesis of the whole kind of nodal eclipse that we're dealing with here. So circumstances can be such that we're pushed to see and consider what other people value, and rather than expect others to share the same perspective as we do as well. So we need to figure out our own needs and our own values as individuals, kind of like that independent energy. And that's so healthy, right? Because if we're independent as individuals, then we're able to be healthily interdependent on each other without expecting the other person to fill that hole in our soul, or expect that person to make me feel better. You know what I mean? Where you're more of then a support system for each other. And of course, there are going to be times where the scales are in balance, and you help each other out and you lift each other up. But it's very hard to do that from a place of comfort, when there's not this established sense of self and identity within the relationship. So I think that's just important to understand right now. We may now need to take some steps towards managing and handling our shared resources with others, our debts or taxes more effectively. We need to consider whether we're contributing our share and earning what we deserve. An intimate partnership may be left behind during this time, or a source of money might end, for example. And either of these situations pushes us to learn to depend on ourselves and recognize what we don't necessarily need in order to survive, right? And really, we're going to be pushed to that point. Ultimately, we are now in a better position to understand that changes or endings that are necessary for our own growth, we can handle things. We can handle things. We're going to feel that we're going to be able to handle things more than maybe we felt like we would have been able to handle them last year. That, you know what? Shit happens and life goes on. Life does go on. And we choose how we end up experiencing that. Are we going to be solution focused, or are we going to be looking in the rearview mirror and focused on what we don't have and what didn't work out? Do you know what I mean? So this is a very strong energy, guys, for discovering our own personal power. This is it, and that figures very, very strongly into this particular aspect. And the thing is, ultimately, you're going to, because the eclipse specifically occurring in Taurus is really more about attending to the side of the equation that involves our own needs and happiness. what, but with all this humanitarian energy that I was talking about, this particular eclipse is going to be like, okay, but don't forget self. Don't forget self. We have to remember, what is it that we need to do? So while we're being very giving, what I love about this earthy Taurus energy, remember I was saying before about how things could be very unclear and we could get taken advantage of. This eclipse is going to be like, hold on, wait a minute. It's time for us to invest a little bit in ourselves, or reinvest in ourselves. Those of us who regularly invest in ourselves anyway, who meditate, who try to, it's not that meditation is is the key to all of this, because I know a lot of people don't do that, and you don't need to, okay? But how do we all nurture ourselves, right? I'm just saying, like, the first thing that I do. But whatever it is, the foods you eat, living a balanced life, doing kind things for yourself, not allowing people to walk on you, but not being disagreeable in the attempt to do that. Just having healthy boundaries, right? Trying to establish those boundaries and be patient. Taurus is a very patient energy, even though it could be very stubborn. I know a lot of Taurus energies who might not agree with that, but your archetype is very patient. It really is slow and steady, right? Slow and steady. Love Taurus energy. Because I got all this Gemini energy, right? So it's definitely a time for focusing on self, right? So what are you good at, right? Your own talent, your own ability to provide yourself, and your dependents. People who are depending on you with the life that you want and what they want together, and going after values that make sense, that would be in alignment with that. I mean, I really like this energy. I just feel like there's going to be a lot of commitment or recommitment to something that you either just started building or you want to build. This is a very committed, very steadfast, very solid energy. It's a really good time for focusing on some of the constructive traits of the sign of the bull. Strong-willed, consistent, sensual, enduring, deliberate, again, patient. We keep saying that, patience. And just consider how to positively incorporate these qualities into your life right now. Taurus new moons are generally good for getting back in touch with simple and physical pleasures. Excuse me, I can't speak. Like really good food, like I mentioned before, or just any activity, bringing you back in touch with nature, all of that stuff. And the solar eclipse can stimulate a strong desire to take action. However, it is going to be really important to avoid jumping to conclusions and asserting ourselves without considering other people's feelings and reactions right now. That's just really important. Again, even if we're feeling very fired up about something, if we could just stop, and just sort of, count to 10 if you have to, as silly as that seems, but think about what the other person might be going through. Because if you're going to come at somebody, in a very sort of attacking kind of way, you're probably not going to get the outcome you want anyway. So why not just sort of step back if you can? You're not going to remember this while you're in the heat of the moment, but maybe, maybe by chance, there's a small chance. Because there is a big difference between being assertive and aggressive, which I do talk a lot about that, right? Especially whenever we're dealing with, like, I always say that, right, with the Ace of Pentacles card. It's like there's a big difference between being assertive and being aggressive. So yeah, and just have a healthy confidence, right, for anything that you're going in. You just want to be careful of having any sort of like false sense of confidence or bravery when something really doesn't have a good chance of working out, right? So the best that you can, try to assess situations here. Flaws in an important system in our lives are definitely going to be a thing right now. So you're going to be noticing circumstances going on with the workplace, the relationship, the family. They do all these systems in our lives, right? This is going to be like a very kind of big deal that's going to be going on for sure, especially around the eclipse. And it's going to prompt us to redo or to start fresh if that circumstance that we identify that flaw in is unfixable or is not going to be willing to work with us. So something ends in order for something else to start anew. I mean, that's what happens in eclipses. And we can be called on to give something up in order to move forward in a new chapter in our lives. Although the new may be unrecognizable right now, it's just important to allow any necessary surrender to the unknown. So if something happens and you're like, what the hell happened? Like, what is happening? Kind of thing, stay open to it. Don't even fight it. Just stay open to it and figure out how you can best handle that situation given the tools that you have in your toolbox at the moment. Now, this eclipse, I do have to say, does happen pretty close to the nodal axis, only within a couple of degrees. And this eclipse is closer to the north node of the moon, right? Because the north node is in Taurus, as I've been mentioning. And so these, I do have to say, these eclipses tend to feel a lot easier than when it's dealing with the south node of the moon, because we're going to have a stronger sense that we're growing and we're improving and we're going in a better direction. And this eclipse alignment with Uranus adds to this progressive theme where we're challenged to be a lot more sensible, maybe even conservative in our approach, but at the same time open to making a lot of fundamental changes, very open to all of that. We're also going to be challenged to follow through on projects or situations that we may have abandoned or considered dropping because we didn't think that they were worth it or worthwhile at some point in our life. So great energy for going back and, finishing that book or that song or that film or that business idea, or for some of you, it's even going to be in relationship. If you didn't think that something was actually worth your time or your energy, you may find yourself in a space of thinking about things much differently. Now, we might be dealing with a certain level of stubbornness, of course, because Taurus is in the house, not only in ourselves, but in other people as well. Because remember, if it's happening to you, it's happening to me and everybody else, right? So if everybody's feeling stubborn, right? So this is a really good energy, though, for connecting in ways where we can compromise, right? And so what if you're the one who's more awake maybe than the next person, and you're the one to come up with the idea to compromise? So what? The energy is so supportive for compromise. So we do like that. You just major develops in the personal areas ruled by Taurus. So everything that I mentioned before having to do with the money that you make from the work that you do, the way you take care of yourself, your value, your literal possessions, what matters to you. This is going to be, there's going to be a big rolling out over the next, especially 3 to 6 months. And depends on the area where, so for some of you, literally like downsizing, getting a new job, taking better care of yourself. Right. I mean, Taurus, if we're like drinking too much alcohol, we're taking pills, we're putting that in our body. We're doing any kind of stuff to our body that we shouldn't be doing. That's Taurus, because Taurus is how we nurture and feed ourselves. So if we're doing that in a little bit of a crooked way, we have the energy to actually get super honest and make those changes. So I do like that. Okay, so why don't we see where each sign is first going to feel the paradigm shift first. Again, I can't emphasize that you're going to be feeling this kind of throughout your life, right? But where's it going to first start? So Aries. So let's talk about the Jupiter and Neptune conjunction is going to be happening in your 12th house. And the new moon partial solar eclipse in Taurus conjunct Uranus is going to be happening in your 2nd house. So this is going to really have a lot to do with your inner world and money and what matters to you, right? Now, with that 12th house energy, that's the house of the hidden. It also happens to be the house that Neptune rules, right? So there's going to be a lot of planning. There's also going to be, with Jupiter in there, you're going to be realizing where you've been keeping yourself too small. Your subconscious mind is going to be so ready to just grow and expand. Now, this is in a beautiful energy to the eclipse energy, which is happening in your 2nd house of money. So the 2nd house of the money that you make from the work that you do, how you feel about yourself, your possessions, moving forward in your life, right? And really kind of like nurturing who it is that you are and who you would like to be. So for a lot of Aries energy, honestly, this is just unbelievably positive, because I feel like the creativity that's going to be coming out of Aries is like bananas. right? Because it's in the 12th house, which is already really creative. That's where Pisces lives. It's Neptune's energy. Neptune is very creative. And so it's in this house, but what it's creative spiritually. This is about stuff literally like coming out of nowhere and you just being like, I have an idea. Let me get up in the middle of the night and write down that idea. Or let me get, do you know what I'm saying? Like realizations are going to be hitting you so beautifully that are going to end up positively impacting either your finances or how it is that you feel about yourself. Now, I do also want to say that a lot of Aries, because of the dynamic of these energies, and this seems kind of random, but I think it's important for at least some of you to hear, you're going to be reaching a point in your life where if alcoholism ran in your families, we have to understand the second house and the fourth house both have to do with ancestral patternings. If I'm going to use alcoholism as an example, right? Those of you who work with me privately know this example, right? Because I put it in my reports. But let's say you had family members where their way of nurturing themselves and taking care of themselves was through alcohol. Okay. That's in your ancestral patterning, right? So did you ever notice that some people are a little more prone to addiction? So that could have to do with the ancestral patterning. But in this energy, you're going to have the power to say, nope, not doing it anymore. I'm stopping the pattern. I'm stopping the negative pattern that my ancestors did, that was passed down to me in my energy, in my family. It's time where I could say without guilt, I'm worth more money. I feel comfortable to go and make more money, to put down that drink, to eat healthier food. Because again, those things are Taurus as well. You understand? And this could literally be this period where you're just like, damn it, I'm ready to take control. That's it. Aries, it's a beautiful energy, truly. So, and I'm going to be doing the part 2 video. We're going to be talking about other energies that are going to be going on. But I feel like this is going to be very, very profound because at the underpinning of all of it is going to be your self-esteem. So you're going to be looking at those relationships. You're going to be looking at how you take care of yourself, but not only health, just in general. Because the 12th house is how you're thinking about everything. You're thinking about cycles, you're thinking about endings and beginnings and death and, things that lurk underneath, because it's very similar to Plutonian energy in that way is Neptune, because Neptune rules the underworld of the ocean, the water, our emotions, whereas Pluto's like the master of the underground, right? So I think this is going to be a very transformative energy for you, Aries. Good luck. I think it's going to be a good one for you. Okay, let's go on to Taurus. So Taurus, Jupiter, Neptune in the 11th. This solar eclipse in Taurus conjunct Uranus is happening in your first house. So we have the sextiling of energies between your 11th house of goals and gains, your salary, your friends, your associations, just kind of like what you want to do with your life. And the shake it up energy is going to be in your first house of self. So I love this because your goals and gains and how you look and feel are really going to be looked at, how you are understood by others. You'd be paying attention to how you might come off to others. Some of you are going to feel very, very motivated to make some changes. Maybe you're going to, I don't know, get a new haircut or purchase some new clothes or get work done if you're into that stuff, or maybe lose weight, whatever. Okay. But you're going to be looking at, again, your physical self and how you meet the world and how the world meets you. And there's something very profound that's going to be changing because your bottom line focus is where you want to go. So it's just kind of like this recognition of, okay, I know if I want to go here, I have to make certain adjustments in myself so that people understand me the way that I want them to understand me. I want them to see a vision and a version of me that speaks to my authenticity and my integrity. So some of you, it's going to just simply be changing the way you handle situations. For others of you, it's going to be making some physical changes. But either way, I just think this is like a really beautiful shake it up energy for you guys. Let's go on to our Gemini friends. So Gemini, Jupiter, Neptune conjunction in the 10th, new moon, partial solar eclipse in Taurus conjunct Uranus in the 12th. Ah, so creative. This is going to be so creative, but you want to know more specifically, there's going to be a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on here. I do feel like for you. I feel like this energy, just make sure, let me just look. I just want to double check this because I'm looking at that chart, but I want to make sure on this chart. Yes, it is happening in your 12th house. So much energy going on in the 12th house for you guys. And that's very behind the scenes and supported behind the scenes. But it's also you going within and finish because it's so creative. It's so creative. And it's in a beautiful alignment with your 10th house of career, public reputation, and standing in the world. This is you really assertively working on something that the world is going to see, Gem. And it's interesting because on the one hand, you guys are going to be very aware of where you've been keeping yourself small. And that's going to incite a period of intense planning regarding some sort of creative project. Creative, you could do plumbing creatively. I don't care what it's like, your thing. So, this does indicate, I mean, so good for those of you who are doing anything having to do with writing, of course, because you guys are Gemini, anything that has to do with the energy of communication, podcasting, anything like that, anything getting something out there. This is going to have profound changes on not only your career and your long-term goals, but how people see you. People are going to know you more, right? And as long as you do the work, people are going to know you more, okay? Which is really, really good. So awesome, Gem. I'll see you in part 2, but for now, I really like this energy for you. So let's go on to our Cancer friends. So Jupiter and Neptune conjunct in the 9th, and the partial solar eclipse in Taurus conjunct Uranus is in the 11th. So we have this energy between money, love, and your future. Cancer, honestly, I feel like a lot of you are going to be coming into some money, and a lot of you are going to be falling in love, and a lot of you are going to have both. Some of you may be taking a relationship to a new level. I love this. 9th house, remember, there's a lot going on here, right? First of all, let's talk about the 11th house first. It has to do with your goals and your gains and where it is that you want to go. And it has to do with your salary and your friends and the people that you associate with. But more than anything, it's like, what's been going on with you? We've been talking about this, I feel like, a lot in like the tarot readings, especially. It's that 11th house. We say it is the house that God speaks to us in. And right, but the messages initiate right in that 9th house, which is where you have the beautiful energy of expansion. And so let's talk about 9th house: publishing, advertising, marketing, launching, getting a project done and out there. Excellent for higher education, excellent for travel, great for importing and exporting. Beautiful energy to have, great energy to marry a second or third, fourth, whatever you're into, spouse. That's 9th house energy, really great. Having a really good experience with that second spouse, having really good experience with your in-laws here. All of these things can happen. But I do also want to remind you that the 9th house represents the institution of marriage, right? And it's that energy of commitment. And so with the sextile to your goals and where it is that you're going, honestly, lovely. And especially with that Neptune energy is very dreamy. Just being able to figure out how to not only manifest a really great relationship and or job is what I'm feeling for you guys, but how to level something up that you may be in already. So I'm really good as far as that goes. Okay, so we'll talk about the other transits in the part 2. Let's talk to our Leo friends. So Jupiter Neptune conjunction happening in your 8th house, new moon, solar eclipse in Taurus conjunct Uranus in your 10th house. So Leo, we have this 8th house, 10th house kind of thing going on. So reassessing relationships and business or financial dealings that will be pushing you in a new direction, especially regarding your career, your marriage, or your very long-term goals. And I see a lot of this rolling out by June. So with that Jupiter and Neptune in the 8th, honestly, some of you may be dealing with a partner who's coming into money. You may have some sort of lawsuit settled where you're getting the financial reward that you want, some sort of anything with a dollar amount that has to do with finances, that has to do with business or investment. That's going to be rolling out in your favor. But now remember, the eclipse hides stuff, right? So we need a little bit of time for this stuff to manifest, right? This energy stuff, this energy to manifest. So figure like end of May by the beginning of June. Now, I do want to say, with the Jupiter and Neptune energy in the 8th, Leo, if you're married and your marriage is a mess, this is going to be like, I can't do this anymore. I have to get divorced. I'm in this business partnership. I can't do this anymore. I have to get out of this. I have to get out of it. Now, you might not have all of the answers right now, but there's going to be a very clear epiphany that if something can't be fixed, you need to walk away from it. Because there is this stress between what matters to you and what matters to the person that you're with. So remember, the 8th house is opposite the natural home of Taurus. So there's this natural opposition between like what matters to you, what goals are you trying to manifest versus what matters to your partner, what they're trying to manifest. It's almost like you guys are just in such opposition that you can't find each other. Now, if you're fortunate enough to be able to come together and try to work things out, then that's different, because this is a very healing energy if everyone could be on the same page. So that's what I have for you guys regarding that. Virgo, Jupiter and Neptune, 7th house of contracts and relationships. This new moon partial solar eclipse in Taurus conjunct Uranus is happening in your 9th house. So taking a serious look at your relationships, contracts, and clientele and business. Expect significant negotiations before the end of June for sure. You will not have all of the information, I don't feel like, for a lot of you until then. So just be, well, not the end of June. Let me say like more the end of May, beginning of June. So just be patient with anything that's requiring negotiating, attempts to launch something, or going after whatever you are feeling very passionate about right now. You don't have all the information, right? But I do want to let you know that something is kind of cracking open here between the 7th house and 9th house. So this could be really positive for a business deal, really positive for a relationship. Again, 9th house has to do with the energy of commitment. 7th house has to do with marriage or even any kind of soul connection, because it's about contract. So it could be a literal contract or it can be a soul contract as well. Now, again, you know, could be your customers, your clients, your patients, whatever. And you trying to strategize maybe a new marketing campaign, a new way of drumming up new business, getting people to invest in something that you want, that you need investors for. Definitely going in a good direction. But you don't have all the information yet. So you wanted the few signs. It's just like, hold tight. It's going to be happening. Just try to stay open and understand that everything, if you're sensing any sort of delay, it's just part of the process. And I'm not just saying that. So Libra, Jupiter and Neptune, 6th house. That conjunction's in the 6th house. This new moon partial solar eclipse in Taurus conjunct Uranus, it's happening in your 8th house. So the energy is sextile between the 6th and the 8th house. So it definitely some sort of new circumstance showing up in that 6th house energy, which could have to do with career, having to do with your day-to-day, right? Either the service that you provide, people who provide you a service. The 6th house really, though, is also the house of solving problems. So if you've been in a really challenging space, Libra, things are going to lighten up. And I do know the cardinal signs have kind of had their asses handed to them as of late. And you're going to be able to figure out solutions that are not going to feel as heavy or as overwhelming or as difficult. You know, because it's conjuncting it, because it's sextiling rather the 8th house of cycles. So I do feel that there's some sort of positive energy that's available to you as you're working through some sort of cycle. Now, for those of you who are dealing with a divorce right now, or the possibility of a divorce right now, I like this energy for you. If you have to deal with it, this is a good energy to have, because there's going to be these emotions rising in you where you're going to be very focused on fairness, things that are equitable. And you guys are all about that anyway, right? Because you're the justice energy, you're ruled by Venus, and she's all about that. But you're not allowing yourself to get sucked into anything. You're not allowing yourself to buy the bullshit anymore. You're not allowing it. That eighth house energy and this shadow manifestation has to do with deceit and condescension and manipulation. It could be gaslighting. It could be a lot of like negative energy. And this eclipse is just going to be like, nope, that is not happening anymore, because the focus is going to be on that sixth house is your mental, physical, and emotional health. And you're not going to allow someone else the power to compromise your health, your emotional state, your mental state. Because let's be real, when we're dealing with deep rooted relationship issues, they can mess us up for a hot minute, right? And even stuff in work, especially if we're like accused of things that we didn't do, right? I know a lot of Libras are going through that right now. So the energy is very, very supportive, though, to sort of cut off at the feet this negative kind of energy. Now, just give it until the end of May, beginning of June. There's going to be this energy that's building up. But what I like about this is you're just going to be like, no, I'm not unreasonable. I'm being totally reasonable. I'm going to be very fair, but I'm not going to allow you to do that to me anymore. Whether it's a family member, a spouse, somebody you're just in a relationship with, a friend, a family member, it's going to be all about it. I actually think this is really so empowering. It's going to be a very empowering transit for you guys. So I really like that. So let's go on to our Scorpio friend. So Scorpio, Jupiter, Neptune, fifth house, partial solar eclipse, Taurus, conjunct Uranus, seventh house. So we have the dynamic going between the fifth and the seventh house. So the Jupiter and Neptune energy, look, in the fifth house, we have to be a little careful of. It's the house of joy. It's the house of celebrating. When Jupiter is conjunct Neptune, we take that energy of Neptune. We have to be a little careful. Please be careful of Scorpio. I'm going to go down the list. Drinking too much, partying too much in any way, gambling. I've had so many emails about this, which is so interesting. This is like Jupiter and Neptune, expands the energy, and fifth house is fortuitous, because a lot of people know that I've said this many times before. Leo, the fifth house does rule gambling, right? It does rule gambling. So with Jupiter and Neptune in there, it's like, woo, let's go. Not when they're in their conjunction. If you are a gambler, wait until the end of the month. Wait until Venus and Mars are in there, then get your lotto ticket, or then go to Vegas and do whatever you're going to do. But please don't do it while they're initially conjunct. Wait until the end of the month for that. All right. So that's that. Okay. Now, I do want to say Scorpio, because it's the fifth house, and the fifth house, for those of you with children, it does rule. The transiting energies in the fifth can also indicate what's going on in the life of our children, right? And so with Neptune and Jupiter, our kids might be going through a little bit of a confusing time, trying to manifest happiness for themselves, all of that. That's kind of like a little side note. So just keep your eye out on, on your kids. But there could be a lot of dreamy energy having to do with relationship here. Save the best for last. Very dreamy. Fifth house has to do with falling in love, love affairs, romance. Has to do with creativity. This is such a good energy to dream about. Either expanding that business, opening that business, launching some sort of project, writing that screenplay, anything creative. That's all fifth house. It's very, and it's what you create, right? Fifth house is a very me-based energy. It's you doing things that make you feel happy and like be in it and love it and enjoy the delicious energy. But please try to keep, one foot planted. I do want to just say that with that eclipse in Taurus, and this is really why I want you to understand this energy. The seventh house has to do with relationships of all kinds. It's a house of relationship. Anybody that we have a literal contract with as far as relationships, such as a marriage partner or a soul contract with, so really close friends, family members, anything like that, there's going to be some sort of eclipse. And because it's in Taurus, and it has to do with values and what we're, you know, how we feel about ourselves and what we bring to the table. You want to be very careful of doing anything that's going to like be risk taking in that fifth house that may end up compromising your money. Anything like that's risk taking in that fifth house that might end up impacting your marriage. Not a good energy to cheat. And I'm not judging. I'm just saying, not a good energy for affairs right now. It's not, because stuff's going to come to the surface. And, you know, if you've been the one who's been, you know, hidden, or however we want to refer to it, like that's just not going to be going on anymore. There's going to be more transparency. So be careful what you're doing in that fifth house as far as doing what you want to do and how it may impact maybe your marriage, maybe your business, maybe that friendship, that family connection. Understand that that sextile is going to be working with something's going to be eclipsed away. So you just want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're exercising integrity, you're staying very open. Now, I do want to say for some of you, the positive manifestation of this, for those of you who are involved in an affair, and you're going to know if this resonates with you or not. I mean, affairs wear many different hats, right? And again, we can't judge anybody. Your partner may finally leave their significant other if you guys are in that space, because the eclipse is the eclipsing out, and the seventh house could be that energetic connection. At the same time, some of you may be eclipsing the relationship out. Some of you may be choosing to end. So it does depend on which end of the spectrum you're on, right? So we have to give you both, because that's just the way the energies are rolling. Also, I do want to, this is really important. I want to mention this before I go away from Scorpio energy. Those of you who are doing something like creatively for money, and you're thinking about changing the angle or approach to your business, if that makes sense, you may realize that you're going to have to maybe take a hit in the short term. It's not going to last though. It's like the eclipse may end up eclipsing away some of your customers or some of your followers or something, whatever, as you transition into elevating your business ultimately. Okay. So don't be scared to make the change, because whatever dip you're going to experience, it'll come back up. Okay. Let's go on to Sagittarius. So Jupiter and Neptune conjunction in your fourth house of home. Foundation, security, could have to do with mother, something to do with mother, parenting, really family, I suppose, actually is really more fourth house. And it's going to be sextiling the energies of the solar eclipse in Taurus conjunct Uranus in your sixth house. So you might be changing jobs, Sag. Something might be getting eclipsed out in that sixth house, which has to do with like where you work, how you work, something having to do with your health. So you might be starting some sort of new workout regime, or changing your diet, or maybe starting therapy, or maybe you're starting some sort of medication if you've been struggling with depression or anxiety. When you're doing a lot of research, you're trying different things out that you feel like would really benefit you, so that you can have so that you could just feel more peaceful and more like kind of fourth house, right, within your energy. Because a lot of you are going to be feeling very motivated to feel better. And you're going to want to kind of get to the core of it. So that's going to manifest for some of you in that way. Jupiter and Neptune in the fourth, Sagittarius, there are changes going on in your house and in your home. You're either buying a home, selling a home, I don't know, something having to do with expanding a home, inviting somebody to come live in your home, somebody moving in, moving out. Something is happening there. But it's going to really benefit your daily experience. So even if you don't have all of the answers, even if it's kind of stressful and confusing initially, by the time that the end of May, beginning of June rolls around, everything is going to be a lot more clear to you. Also, sixth houses have to do with the initiation of contracts. So there may be something going on with some sort of contract having to do with finances that you're inciting, but you might not have all the answers. So the offer may be coming in, but you may not be signing the papers just yet. So just be patient with that because it's positive. It's a very positive energy. On to our Capricorn friends. So we have the Jupiter and Neptune conjunction happening in your third house. I love this for you because we have the new moon partial solar eclipse in Taurus conjunct Uranus in your fifth house. Oh my gosh. So we have the ability to communicate in all modes, whether you write, whether you sing, whether you dance, whether you create curriculum, whether you have a podcast, a YouTube channel, anything like that, okay? It's going to be in a beautiful alignment with the solar eclipse in Taurus, which has to do with the money that you make from the work that you do and how you feel about yourself, conjunct Uranus, which is all about big change in the fifth house of creativity, of things that you create, entrepreneurial energy. So first of all, let's talk about love. A lot of you are going to be meeting somebody new online or through some sort of mode of, and when I say mode of communication, I mean, you can just simply be communicating with somebody new, meeting somebody new online, because it's very third house. You might be meeting somebody new just in your neighborhood. Third house is neighborhood, one of your neighbors, seeing them differently, just out and about in your neighborhood. Maybe you're just like in the veggie aisle at the supermarket. Hello, something like that. You don't see this coming. This is the thing. What if you're single, what would be getting eclipsed out could be like your single status. You follow? Very nice energy here. And it's going to end up kind of being like just what you needed, right? Because this energy of Taurus is about nurturing ourselves and opening ourselves up to energies that will help to feed us in a very, very healthy way. So it could be something that you don't see coming that comes in and it ends up being a really nice experience. But I really, first and foremost, see this as you guys producing some sort of either book, song, album, movie, something that you're getting out into the world and you're going to get a boatload of recognition. I love, love, love this energy for you. And I like this because of other transits that I'll talk about in another video with you guys, but really good stuff here for you, Capricorn. Okay, let's go on to Aquarius. So Aquarius, Jupiter, Neptune conjunct in your second house, which is the home of Taurus. New partial solar eclipse in Taurus conjunct Uranus in your fourth house. So second house, fourth house, Aquarius. Money that you make from the work that you do that's going to help you feel more secure. Second house, fourth house. You just might not have all of the answers yet. Something is going to be changing, having to do with your home. So whether you are making the decision now to move, literally moving now, someone moving in, moving out, maybe your family is moving, there are adjustments in your family home, changes within your family, but whatever it is, it's going to actually make you feel better about yourself. You may not have total clarity. It may not be manifesting completely now, but there's at least a lot of talk of it. There are seeds being planted. Okay. So not only are you going to feel better about it, for many of you, second house, fourth house with this energy, some sort of job that you're doing right now, some sort of experience that you're doing right now is likely going to be eclipsed out by the end of May. So some of you may be graduating, some of you may be finishing a job, doing something like that. But then whatever you were doing, you're now going to be doing it from home. And if you're doing it from home, you're going to be making a lot of money. You're going to be very successful if you're deciding to maybe study from home. This is such good energy for you to be doing any sort of dynamic having to do with home that you're not currently doing. Okay. Really nice energy here. And then that's just part. I mean, we have so much to talk about with this month, but I'm going to leave it there, having to do with these two transits. Okay, finally, Pisces, last but definitely not least, Jupiter and Neptune. It's happening in your first house of self. You are going to look so cute. People are going to be so attracted to you right now, honestly. And I'm not... Look, this is not to suggest like an Axe commercial, right? An action where you walk out, because you remember the Axe commercial, like you put on Axe and you go out and it's like all the girls were chasing the guy. That's ridiculous. But your energy is going to be giving off a particular vibe. Your friends are going to notice. People are going to want to be around you more. They're going to want you. People are going to want to be your friend more. They're just going to want to deal with you more. They really are. This is such a beautiful dreamy energy right now. I love it. For many of you, big changes in your physical appearance. If you want to, just wait until Venus and Mars goes in there though. If like, don't do it on the 12th yet. Wait until like the 22nd and on. Okay. Because you might be thinking, I think I'd look amazing with green hair. And then you're like, not so much, that could happen. So just wait until Venus and Mars go in there. But it's going to be sextiling this energy in the third, this eclipse energy in the third. So, and the third again is about communication. It's about your neighborhood. I just feel like it has to do with your siblings. Such a nice energy to connect with siblings, getting over obstacles that have been going on with siblings, getting over obstacles that have been going on in the neighborhood, making new friends, just connecting. Awesome for business too. My goodness. The third house is about signing on the dotted line and doing business. Great energy for negotiating anything. Great energy for meeting anybody. Again, you're going to be meeting people either whether it's online or in your neighborhood. It doesn't really matter, but the third house energy is both, right? Really good energy also if you're feeling very motivated to get into something new. So let's say, I don't know, maybe you've been like toying with the idea of learning Reiki, or maybe getting more into tarot, or learning more about astrology, or something like that. Third house is very like grassroots kind of learning. It's not higher education, like that's ninth house. This is more like, third house rules our education from like initial education all the way through like high school, but it also rules like webinars, seminars, workshops, stuff like that, or even just self-teaching yourself something. So I really like this. Also, beautiful, beautiful energy to be writing. Love this energy for you guys to be writing about yourself. This is such a great energy for journaling, for healing. So good. I mean, I could go on and on with this, but I think I'm going to end it there. Really beautiful, beautiful energy. And again, you guys are going to be looking super cute. You really are. But you remember, Neptune is very dreamy and Jupiter is very benefic. It's very, so it's almost like this energy is going to be very, it sounds very cheesy for me to say ethereal, because I don't mean that. There's something about your energy, people are going to be jiving with it. So really good stuff there. Anyway, so that is what I have for you guys. I hope this was helpful in some way. I'm going to put timestamps for all of this stuff. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you next time. You guys take care now. Bye-bye.